Guys, you're looking at trouble. And the reason I say trouble is we've watched the Gulf and the Atlantic heat up with very little tropical storm activity in the last 2 or 3 years. Each year, I always say that because of that, the next summer is going to be warmer. And if you get a low-pressure area that can break this high dome that's above here, where the El Nino is, guys, we're going to have trouble because this thing has just moved into some very hot water. I've got the models. And guys, don't go away because this could become a very powerful storm. The most powerful one that I remember was Hurricane Michael that formed in the Gulf. We've had strong storms that got a little bit lower in pressure and all, but they formed either in the Caribbean or out into the Atlantic, somewhere down in that area. But Michael formed here. And every year we track these storms here, and I always like to use my models and the satellite images I see. And I try not to look at any of the other weather predictions until I get a clean look at it. And each year we'll put in our own models and our own projections. If you remember in Hurricane Michael, it was coming up Cat 5, guys, and they predicted it to go pretty much north, maybe come into Pensacola, into this area. But I saw a low pressure system breaking over to the right. And I said, this thing's going to turn right very quickly. And people listened, and it did. Michael turned in there and wiped out a lot of people, guys. They said it was a 4. They went back and looked at the forensic evidence, and it was definitely a Cat 5. And again, the people that watched the video, they came in and talked about it, saying they were glad they were watching because they left their homes when they thought it was going to bypass them and slam a little further to the east. And so we have a pretty good record, and I'm not bragging, I'm pointing out that experience means a lot. What we're seeing is trouble. I said if we get a low pressure system that slips in under the high pressure system we've been seeing, we're in trouble. Superheated water. Texas is already inundated, guys. What have you got? In some places between there and Mexico border, 40 inches, maybe 24 in some areas. And that's record, unless you look at like Hurricane Harvey and then you went up a little above it. But guys, the world is changing. None of the patterns are matching anything now because everything's kind of out of sync. All the vortices, everything's out of sync. The engine is broken, basically. And so we're going to see records. We're doing it now. Now, I'm very concerned about the tracking, and we're going to look at this, not from the National Hurricane Center, but from some of the other models. And Texas, again, you got this much rain in, I think it was Harvey, but maybe this was a little further to the left or a little further to the west, what you're getting now. But from 25 to 40 inches is tremendous. And if you think about it, with as wacky as the weather is, you almost had a hurricane there as far as the damage. Guys, it's tremendous. Bridges overflowing, people losing their lives, records being broken, rivers combining, pushing waves downstream. I looked at all the data last night, different highways, all of that. But this, guys, has been brewing. And again, they've been looking a little further to the north. Let's look at some of the models and let's look at the tracking, guys, because Texas and Louisiana, this thing could bring a lot of moisture on top of what you already have in your saturated grounds. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear, but my job is to show you what I see. Now, I want to back the camera back out on the satellite zoom just a minute and show you where your moisture is now. Again, Texas, you're getting a little bit of break right now. But the tracking of this is dangerously close to coming back to some of the very same areas. And this could be record-breaking amounts of rain. This could be a very powerful tropical storm, if not a hurricane, before it's all said and done. The reason I say that, it's going to track west. What does that mean? It means it's out over very warm water for a longer period of time. It's got plenty of moisture wrapped up in it. And again, we're talking about saturated ground. Now, what they're calling the dirty edge of a storm like this is even though it tracks through here, guys, and you've got this edge up here, you see this? That will swipe across Louisiana. Parts of Mississippi, we'll just have to see how far north this edge goes, but definitely over Louisiana and areas of Texas, even if it makes landfall a little further in. Let's look at some of the models, guys. Now, as we go through this model, when you get into the blues and the pinks and whites, you're getting into very, very dense rain, guys. Normally in a system like this, if you look at the amount of moisture in it, you're going to read around like 55 millimeters. We're reading about 99 millimeters on some of the charts in here. And again, you can compare. Again, you're getting a relief in Texas right now. It's not as hard as it was, but look how quickly the scale goes up here. Look at that. You're getting up possibly another foot before it's all said and done. But notice the path of the moisture. And that's an indicator of which way it's going to travel. That's as far as this model goes. Let me show you something about the pressure model. And let's take a look at this model, guys. It goes up until, I think, Monday on the 20th. And it starts back a couple of days ago. Watch what happens here, and you notice it's July the 17th right now. Just went to the 18th. Again, I want to leave it zoomed out so that we can see the timestamp for the moment. Then it's about to go to the 19th. And notice the rotation. There is 19th. That's Sunday. Starts back on the 15th. Anyway, here's what we're seeing, guys. Moving off the shore, tightening up. Watch this. The low pressure starts to form in the very center. It's diving a little further south. Notice that. That gives it more time to get out into the warmer water before it starts that track to the west. Now it's pretty much at the end of the 19th into the 20th. It pretty much has a full rotation setup. Speed it up just a little bit. Check that out. Now let's look at it close up. And again, you're going to see the wind vector center up right there, and it flashes. If you stop, do a timestamp stop on it, you'll see where it flashes at like 1,009 millibars, when everything around it is around 118 to 120 millibars. But guys, that is what we're dealing with right now. And again, they've been saying a 20% chance of development, but a little further north up in this area, crossing the upper Florida Peninsula. This is going to be trouble because of the breaking not only sea surface temperatures, but sea surface anomaly temperatures, the degree above normal. And guys, they're changing this afternoon. This has been a 20% chance the last couple of days. And again, it was showing that it could form somewhere inside this area. That would be where it would travel. But looking at the models, it may not make this turn that quick. It may come, and it is a little further south than where they were watching. That's what I was talking about. It would be closer to this bottom edge of this yellow cone and moving further out before we see any type of turn. But here, this is what they're saying now, 30% chance. A large area of showers and thunderstorms over the eastern Gulf of America is associated with an upper-level low and a surface trough. Some gradual development of the system is possible while it meanders northward. That means slow travel, soaking up more heat, creating a section at the bottom or the surface layer that is going to tighten up very quickly. I'll show you that in a moment. But again, that some gradual development of the system is possible while it meanders northward, bringing heavy rain to portions of the Florida West Coast during the next several days. It will do that, guys, but as it moves, again, that edge is going to scrape along the Gulf Coast, and then the impact point looks like some tremendous amounts of rain, maybe 12 inches in some of the areas we were looking at just in the dots, and as we watched that moisture movement from right to left headed across the Gulf. Now let's shift over to the NOAA wind map just a moment. Guys, here's your system that's been inundating Texas, You're still getting a good bit of rain in this area, and this is the system that we're watching over in the Gulf now. But this one is much larger, and it's still gathering moisture. These lines that are green under here, let me stop this. And this is where the moisture is. You were seeing the wind vectors and things like that. But guys, again, there's still moisture in the area. There's still moisture below this, and this right here could create much more. Take a look at that. Now, something that's interesting about the way these systems work, we're looking at 500 HPO, about 18,000 feet up. Now, when the day gets hotter, the high pressure that is part of this El Nino system, carrying all the smoke and all, it picks up strength under the heat of the day. What it will do is cause upper level wind shear. Now, this morning I went through the different levels. You see this right here, surface 1000 HPA up, going higher. And this thing remained pretty much vertically stacked. It was about 6:37 a.m. this morning early, and the wind or the heat hadn't built up, and the pressure hadn't built up to start the wind shear. And so as I went through these levels this morning, this center stayed there. But today, because again the El Nino pressure and the heating, the pressure it starts to slice those levels. In other words, instead of a straight up funnel coming from the surface of the ocean into the upper atmosphere, you'll start to see layers pull back over to the right or to the east, because that's the direction the El Nino is pushing it. Now tonight, when it cools off and that pressure, it gets some relief on the pressure, it has so much energy right here in the center that it could quickly reform the vertical columns. In other words, it is very strong. It is over very warm temperature, even with the wind shear. I'm going to show you. We're going to go up in elevation with 500 HPO here, and watch as we rise how it's vertically not tearing the top off, because the top is still there. It's just bending it to the right. More than likely, as soon as the upper atmosphere cools off some this evening and into night, we're going to see this re-strengthened. Now, we're going to raise in height. Watch this. Going to 250. Notice we're up above that level. The El Nino has pushed the funnel. It hasn't broken it, but it has bent it. If you could see it from the side view, you'd see the bottom again back right there. And as you looked up that tornado, the spout of it, guys, would be here. You see that? And so this morning, though, all the levels from the surface up stacked up right here. And that's called vertical stacking. And that's how they form. When you don't have the wind shear tear them completely apart, that's what happens. So as the sun gets cooler this afternoon, that vertical stacking should bounce back, and each layer will show this section. That's an indication of a very, very powerful storm. Guys, we are looking at record temperatures. Let's take a look at that. And again, the Gulf Stream has been broken for quite a while. It used to go completely through the Gulf and come back out here. And I mentioned the other day, guys, that this Gulf Stream is not cooling as it gets further north. It's actually maintaining much of the temperature that it's pulling out of the Gulf, even up at these higher elevations. But here, again, you get into the white purple and the storm's coming off here. We're looking at 87.9 degrees Fahrenheit, where the marker is right there. As you move, it's right in there, guys. That's the water temperature. And if you look at SSTA, which is the anomaly above normal, we're dealing with 2.9, higher than it should be, and higher than records 3.0. And those degrees mean a lot when you're dealing with already record heat. And what has happened, let's back this out. We have not had the Atlantic hurricanes for a couple of years, maybe one, but just about every one we saw, guys, has came off, maybe gotten close, and ended up going back up and looping out back into the Atlantic. Just about every one of them. The mechanisms of the planet started going off a few years ago, tilting out of whack just a little bit. But this warmer area here is feeding into the Gulf Stream, keeping it warm, and moving up into these record SST levels in this area. But again, this is what we got to be watching the next few days. And what is a shame, guys, and I know you've all thought about it, we're seeing record floods in Texas. Things being washed away, people being drowned, massive floods over bridges and all. And if that would just shift maybe 1,000 miles to the west over the Rio Grande Valley, the Colorado River Valley in that area, what a difference that could make. It's just not happening at this point in time. And I think the earth is trying to rebalance itself. And sometimes, just like order comes out of chaos, that's how the earth has to rebalance itself. You're going to have some chaotic times as it tries to do the things to make everything rebalance so that it can stabilize. We don't know when that point will be, but we're definitely seeing it going through some birth pains right now. Now, this is key because this particular filter is called total cloud water. And I've got the marker right here where the storm is. And normally you're going to see about a 55, what they call a kilogram meter square amount of moisture. But guys, if you look at this, look right here, we're getting double that amount. And that's where you get the big floods. Same thing if we look up into Texas, right in this area, guys, 82, see that? 55 is your normal. And so we're getting very high into that. But the highest part seems to be out here. And earlier this morning, I saw a 99, almost a 100, which is almost double what normal is. So that is going to make a big difference. And the moisture that comes in, wherever it comes in. But I think it's going to be distributed on that top side along the coast again, and probably follow some of this path right through this area, because the models do show it extending west and not just moving up like the National Hurricane Center is indicating there. So guys, I'm not going to make this a long video. We don't need any more details than what you're seeing right now. But because you know for 15 years that I've watched every hurricane that has come through here, then you know that I'm going to stay on top of this. We don't know how strong it will become, but the potential is there. I've said it from Jump Street this year. If we get one slip into this very hot water and slip under the high pressure that we're seeing, it's on. And it looks like we're going to see that. Maybe it won't be a massive hurricane, but it doesn't look like there's any way around it being a massive rain event over some of the very rain-soaked areas already. So, guys, I know you don't want to hear it, but if you're in those areas, you've got to prepare for it. You're probably going to get a day of relief or two, and the water goes down some, and then it may be coming right back in. But we're watching it, guys. We love you. Our Father loves you. It's a major heads up on this. The world is out of whack. We're breaking records from each pole, from the desert to the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America, excuse me. And the entire planet is seeing the results, not only of this stuff, but guys, it starts at the sun. Solar max, the oceans heat up, El Nino becomes a record El Nino. And again, it's just a shame we couldn't shift all of this flood, or half of it at least, over to the desert Southwest where they really need it. Now, there's some moisture that keeps building up, and right up here's Lake Mead, guys, and if you watch that camera, it's kind of like a cloud that comes in, but it never rains, you know, like hope is sometimes, you know. Anyway, that's what I've been seeing. Not a lot of moisture getting there, but on the webcams, you can see a lot of clouds in that area. Anyway, we're watching it, guys. You watching? It's a heads up. Be safe.